Hare Krishna. Welcome everyone to Gita Diploma course. I thank you from the bottom of my heart for joining live with us on YouTube and Facebook. This is Madhusudan Vishnu, and we have been together studying Bhagavad Gita in this Gita Diploma course. It has been a good journey, isn't it? And today is the second last leg of our journey. We are going to discuss chapter number 17. So we are almost there. It's such a pleasure actually to have been with all of you and doing this study of Bhagavad Gita. For me also personally, it was very enriching and also learning a lot again. So we'll start today's session without any delay by chanting the prayers as we do every session. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Another thing which I wanted to thank each one of you is that, of course, I don't know who all are exactly joining the session. I do get to know that there are some people who are very regular because they ask questions, they respond to the questions that we ask. But looking at the number of people who attend the sessions, I can somehow figure it out that most of you are regularly joining every day at the same time, and I really appreciate your commitment. That's so nice of you that you are serious to understand this wonderful literature called Bhagavad Gita. Now, quickly, let's revise what we discussed in chapter 16, whose title was The Divine and the Demoniac. It spoke that this world is like a prison house which has two kinds of prisoners, and one of them have divine qualities, the other have demoniac qualities. We discuss about the demoniac in detail, what activities do they do, what is their tendency, how they behave, and finally the way to become divine is, let's start obeying the scriptures, let's start following the directions, the instructions given in the scriptures. This whole brings us to another topic or concept that has to be explored, which is Arjuna is thinking that this material world and this prison house of material life is very complex. Now, though we know how to get out of it, the Vedas are going to help us. They tell us the escape plan. We need to develop divine qualities. Still, it's not that easy to come out of this. It's difficult, it's complicated, and you can't do it on our own abilities, on the basis of our abilities. So in this chapter 17, we'll discuss about the complexity of this whole program of trying to come out of this material life or material world. And the solution is also offered. The solution is, if you start developing more and more the mode of goodness, sattva guna, then the chances of coming out of this prison is much more. In the chapter yesterday, we talked about divine beings, what it means to be divine. It means to have these four characteristics. First, a divine person will study the Vedic scriptures, or will hear the Vedic scriptures, or will try to learn from the Vedic scriptures. Because the Vedic scriptures give us the knowledge what to be done, what not to be done, what is right, what is wrong, all that. Second, the divine person is also law abiding. He does not just know what is right and what is wrong. He also does what is right and stops doing what is wrong. So there's not just information collected, but there's practical application on that information. So you study the Vedic scriptures, you apply the Vedic scriptures. And when you apply the Vedic scriptures, you try to understand the deeper meaning, the real meaning of the Vedic scriptures. You try to explore it to greater depth so that your application is also enhancing every time. You are not always a student at a particular level. You are a growing student or a progressive student. You are moving ahead as a student. You're learning step by step. And finally, you have faith in what you do or what you follow. I have heard so many people say, Gita is a very nice book and it may work for you, but it's not going to work for me. Now, this attitude or mentality is called faithlessness. That you know it's nice, you know it's good, but you don't have faith that it's going to work for you. You know, people say, my problems are so big, Gita cannot solve it. But for you, yes, for you, Gita is okay. You can study Gita. You can take out time for it. So these are the four things which, if someone has, that person is divine, daiva, nature. Another thing we understood is if we follow the Vedic scriptures, we are called divine. If we don't, we are called demoniac. Or those who follow the Vedic scriptures are called faithful, and those who do not follow, they are called faithless. That was clearly explained in the previous chapter. Arjuna's question here is there might be people who are in between. They are not like completely faithful, and they are also not completely faithless. They have some kind of faith. Maybe that faith is not correct. Maybe that faith is not put on the right person. It's not placed correctly. But they do have some kind of faith. So, where do you place such people? Do you call them divine? Do you call them demoniac? If they are demoniac, can they become divine? Do they have any chance of making spiritual progress? They do have faith, but not on the Vedic scriptures. They have faith on whatever they have heard from somewhere else. Some so-called guru has taught them something, and then they accept it. So where do they fall in? Therefore, he asked these questions to Krishna. Ye shastra vidimutsritya yajante shraddhayanvitaha tesham nishtha tu ka Krishna sattvam aho rajastamaha. O Krishna, what is the situation of those who do not follow the principles of Scripture, but worship according to their own imagination? Are they in goodness, in passion, or in ignorance? It's asking, O Krishna, what is the situation of those who do not follow the principles of Scripture, but worship as per their own imagination? There's some kind of thinking. So, are they in goodness, or they are in passion, or in ignorance? Like, to give you an example, there are so many people who concoct some form of God. They don't accept God as given in the scriptures. They make their own God. They create their God. Just they select some human being and then say, this is God. Let's start worshiping him. And they have faith in that person. So what about them? What do we call them? Divine, demoniac, in between, what? Can they ever become successful in spiritual life? Will they reach to the highest level of spirituality? That's what Arjuna wants to know here from Lord Shri Krishna. And he has put forth this question to Lord Krishna. Uh, just a second. Okay, so this is what he's asking, and Lord Krishna is answering. Trivida bhavati shraddha dehina. So he's saying, uh, actually, when we talk about faith, Shraddha is translated as faith in English. So when we talk about faith, faith, people say faith is a religious concept. It's only in religion that you require faith. However, the truth is, faith is in everything. Faith is everywhere. Faith is required in everything. So, like, what is faith actually? Faith is a quality. It's a quality of the soul. It's a quality that belongs to the soul. That is called faith. Soul has lots of qualities, and faith is one of those qualities. Pure soul has pure qualities, and the pure soul is made up of pure goodness. So the faith that it has is also born of pure goodness, and it's called pure faith. So now, when the soul is not pure, or it has a material covering, like it has a body on top of it, that body can be of different types. If the body is of type of mode of goodness, sattva guna, then it is called sattvic faith. If the body is of the type of rajuguna, then it is called rajasic faith. And if the body is of the type of tamoguna, ignorance, then it is called tamasic faith. I hope you are able to understand. Faith is the quality of the soul emitting from the soul. It's pure in nature, but because the soul is covered by sattva, rajas, tamas, The faith that is seen outside, which is visible to us, which we can notice, that faith is of different types. If the person is in goodness, the faith is sattvic. If the person is in passion, the faith is rajasic. If the person is in ignorance, then the faith is tamasic. And because they have that kind of faith, they act accordingly. They'll put their faith in something or someone. So here we understand from this table, generally people of these different types of faith, whom they worship. If the person has pure faith, 100% pure faith, then that person would want to worship Lord Shri Krishna or any Vishnu Tattva, because his or her inspiration will come from there. His or her attraction will be there. And they will worship the Lord as the supreme God, that this is Parameshwar, this is Param Satya. If the faith is affected by mode of goodness and is sattvic faith, then that person will worship some demigod, some devata, or some goddess, Devi. Because devatas and devis, gods and goddesses, they have lots of powers. They are controllers. They control. They can give you powers. They can make you better than others. And then those who are passionate in nature, they have rajasic faith, faith contaminated by mode of passion. They worship not gods, they worship living beings who are more powerful than them, such as Rakshasas, Yakshas, ordinary humans but better than them, like television, film actors, actresses, cricketers, sports stars, musicians, whatever, rich people, they start worshipping them. And finally, people who have tamasic faith, faith in mode of ignorance, they worship the dead beings, the ghosts, the spirits. In this way, the faith is differently placed, and people accordingly worship different personalities. Now we'll do an exercise here. I'll ask you questions based on what information we have just given to you. If someone is worshipping Shitala Devi is a goddess. She's the goddess of disease. That's what we learn from Puranas. So if someone is worshipping Shitala Devi, has faith that if you worship her, your sickness will get cured and all that stuff, then what kind of faith will it be called? Tamasic, Rajasic, or Sattvic? What will it be called? Or faith in mode of goodness, passion, or ignorance? Which one? It will be called Sattvic. Yeah, very good. Because worshipping a Devi. So it will be called Sattvic. Then doing ghost worship. What will it be called? Sattvic, Rajasic, Tamasic. Goodness, passion, ignorance. Which one? It's called Tamasic. Someone worshipping Somadev. Somadev is the god of moon. Then that kind of worship will be which type? Tamasic? No, that will be Sattvic faith. Again, worshipping a god, no? Demigod. So that's Sattvic faith. Yes, correct. And what about worshipping Ravana? Like nowadays, we have such people who are fans of Ravana. They get inspired knowing the story of Ravana. They have sympathy for him. So what about them? They fall in which category? It's what kind of faith? Religious faith. It's Rajasic, correct. Very good. Tantric puja. You know about Tantra? It's called black magic. So people involved in such kind of activities, what is that faith called? That's tamasic. Very nice. Someone worshipping Gandhiji, he's the father of the nation, India. He has done so much for getting India freedom, sacrificed so much. Let's worship Gandhi. So what will that faith be called? Worshipping Gandhi, that will be called Rajsik, worshipping a human being, right? Worshipping Adolf Hitler. You might be thinking, is it possible someone will worship him also? Yes, there were people who worshipped him, his soldiers, his army men, people who followed him, who died for him. And then there was also a merchant in Kolkata who worshipped Hitler because he made a lot of money during the Second World War and he thought all the credit goes to Hitler. He made me rich. So again, this is which kind of faith? Rajasic. Very true. And last one, Ghost Festival. It happens in Thailand, in Bangkok. They celebrate with ghosts. So what do you think this kind of worship is of? Which type? Is it Sattvic, Rajasic, Tamasic, ghost worship or ghost festival? It is Tamasic. Very nice. Thank you. So what we understand that if someone worships the gods as controllers, mere controllers, then their faith is of sattvic type. Isn't it? It's called faith in mode of goodness. Like here you can see these five personalities are generally considered to be the most powerful personalities. Lord Vishnu, Lord Shiva, Lord Ganesha, Mother Durga, and Surya Devata. So worshipping such beings is called sattvic. If they are seen as gods, if the Lord Vishnu is seen as Parameshwar, the Supreme Lord, then it becomes faith beyond the modes. And then worshipping personalities like them. Someone is cricketer, someone is an actor, someone is, martial arts champion, someone is fighter, someone is a social welfare worker or a religious man, someone is a celebrity. Then that is called Rajasic faith. And then worshipping someone like these, a Gori Baba, going to the crematorium, worshipping human, skeleton, skull, smoking marijuana, taking drugs, and all that stuff, worshipping Kali. All this is called Tamasic faith. Lesson to learn. Faith is in everyone's heart, whether they believe it or not. There are just different types of faith. The kind of company we associate with, that is what our faith becomes. So faith is in everyone. It's just that the type of faith is different. Someone says, I don't believe in God and I don't believe in faith. So you may ask that person, sir, what do you believe in? And he says, I believe in science. So then that is also faith. You have faith in science. That is also faith. Right. Next, Lord Krishna continues to explain. He says, Shastra vihitim ghoram tapyante. So he says, demoniac way of worship, which is against the Vedic practices. How do the demons worship? Let's explain. Undergo severe austerities and penance is not recommended in the scriptures. We have so many stories from Puranas of people like that who did some austerity, but not in the way it should be done. They performed them out of pride. Oh, I'm so great. And in that attitude, they did such sacrifices. Or out of ego. Or they did it out of lust to achieve something material in a very strong way. They desired to achieve it. So they did some sacrifice, some religious activity. Or because of too much of attachment. Or out of foolishness, they engaged in some religious activity. So this is all demoniac way of worshipping. Arjuna then says, the modes decide and control even our faith. What else do the modes decide? It seems the modes decide everything. So he's asking, what does it decide? And Lord says, practically, everything is controlled by the modes. Everything means everything. But here the Lord only speaks about some specific points, and he speaks about those points which are very relevant from a religious perspective. He gives a very general example first. He talks about food because Everyone has a relationship with food. Everyone has experience of eating. So it will be very easy to relate with that topic and understand food in mode of goodness, food in mode of passion, food in mode of ignorance. But along with that, then he talks about three other topics which are in religious context, like sacrifices, austerity, charity. So he'll describe them in detail. So Arjuna says, by knowing them, we can get an idea of which mode is prominent uh, over whom, right? That's what Arjuna is saying. Like, by knowing about this knowledge, we can come to know which mode is controlling us more. We already did an exercise in chapter 14, but this is extra knowledge to help us know that better. So Krishna says, yes, it can help you know yourself better. So food in mode of goodness, passion, and ignorance is described in this table. Let's look at it. This is the effect of food in mode of goodness, passion, and ignorance. So the food in mode of goodness or sattva guna, what it does to you, it increases your duration of life. It purifies your life. It purifies your body, your mind, your intelligence, and even the consciousness. And it gives you strength, health, happiness, and satisfaction. But the food which is in mode of passion, when consumed, then that food gives us distress, it gives us misery, it gives us disease. And what happens if we consume food that is in mode of ignorance? Any guess? What will be the result of such a food? The effect of eating such a food? If someone eats food in mode of ignorance, what is the result? Death? No, not that soon. Lust, anger, laziness, not good for health. Distress, yes. Okay. So the simple answer is just the opposite of the result which we have shown for mode of goodness. Tamas is completely opposite to sattva. So the result will be the life will be decreased, lifespan will be decreased, body, mind, etc. will become impure, will make us weak, unhealthy, will make us sad, distressed, miserable, and will not be also satisfied. So these are the effects of food in mode of ignorance. And next, then the Lord talks about the symptoms. What are the symptoms of food in mode of goodness, passion, ignorance? Food which are in mode of goodness, the symptom is those foods are juicy in nature, they are fatty and wholesome in nature, they are pleasing to the heart. Whereas foods which are in mode of passion, they are extreme in nature, which means they are too sweet, they're too sour, they're too bitter, they're too hot, too dry, too pungent, and they'll sometimes also leave a burning sensation in the stomach after you have eaten them. So that's food in mode of passion. And food in mode of ignorance is decomposed, it's old, stale, stinking, dead. It is putrid, abominable actually, waste, and it is tasteless. From here, we very easily understand that food such as non-vegetarian stuff, meat, eggs, fish, all that is food in mode of ignorance. It's not food in mode of passion or goodness. So basically, food in mode of goodness means it has these characteristics. It is obtained by performing least amount of violence or no violence at all. That's food in mode of goodness. Either you get it without any violence, just like let's say there is a fruit hanging from the tree, and by itself the fruit falls down on the ground. Then if you pick up that fruit and you take it as your food, you're not committing any violence to the tree. Or minimum violence, the fruit is hanging and you pluck it. So that's mode of goodness. But when there is severe amount of violence and causing so much pain to the other living entity, then that is not sattvic food. This food is naturally obtained. You don't artificially just manufacture it. It's naturally obtained. It is tasty in quality, and it increases your life. As per Ayurveda, food should be eaten in such a way that it increases your lifespan. So the sattvic food is like that. Lesson, very important again. You are what you eat. Not only our body, but also our mind is created or destroyed by the food we eat. Sattvic diet provides nourishment and purity to the body, mind, memory, and even the intellect. So, having spoken about the topic of food, then the Lord Krishna moves to the next topic, which is sacrifice. What is sacrifice? Let's quickly ask you a question. Does yajna or sacrifice mean Agnihotra yajna only, or fire sacrifice, where there is some chanting of mantras and there is a homa and people are putting some oblations into it and saying swaha, swaha, swaha? So, is that the only kind of sacrifice, yajna? Or we have studied about more kinds of yajnas? What's the answer to this? Yes or no? No. Right? There are other types of sacrifices also. So next question. In which chapter do we learn, or did we learn about the different types of sacrifices? Remember which chapter we discussed that? We learned about the different types of sacrifices. Chapter 4, not 14. In chapter 4, we discuss about different types of sacrifices. Remember, right? Worshipping the demigods, sense control, uh, hearing the scriptures, worshipping Brahman, all that, studying the scriptures. So these were different kinds of sacrifices. Or sacrifice in general means that you do it for the sake of pleasing the Supreme Lord. So different kinds of religious activities, they are done with different attitudes, and based on that you can put them in mode of goodness, passion, or ignorance. Like activities which are in mode of sattva, their nature is they are done as per the direction given in the scriptures. That's why they are called sattvic activities. And the attitude of the person who is performing those activities is that that person does it as a matter of duty, that it's my duty, let me do it. Why give charity? As a matter of duty. Why go to temple? As a matter of duty. Why worship God? As a matter of duty. Why participate in this festival? As a matter of duty. Purpose, they don't want anything in return, they just want to do it because they are supposed to do it. But in Rajasic nature, what happens is they do follow the scriptures while they engage in religious activities, but they do the activity with a lot of pride, out of pride that I am so great, I'm engaged in this spiritual activity. And they do it for getting something material in return. We want wealth, we want a good husband or wife, we want children, we want a job, we want success, we want health, like that. So there's expectation, material expectation. So that's mode of passion. And then mode of ignorance, do they follow the scriptures? No. Do they follow the instructions of the scriptures? No. They engage in a sacrifice, but what they do, they don't give any remuneration to the priest, they don't chant any Vedic mantras, they don't distribute any prasadam, food, and they have no faith that this sacrifice will help them make progress spiritually. Now, again, we'll give you an exercise to do. Let's say this person is there, he is performing some kind of yoga practice. He's doing in a self styled fashion. He has made his own ways of achieving the truth, but he does not follow the instructions given in the scriptures. So, what kind of sacrifice will this be? Sacrifice in ignorance, passion, or goodness? Tamasic, Rajasic, or Sattvic? Which one? What kind of sacrifice will this be? Seems to be a religious person engaged in religious activities, but then does not follow the scriptures at all. Makes his or her own style of going to God or approaching God. So such a sacrifice is called tamasic sacrifice. Let's say this girl as a child, and now she's grown up, but since as a child she has been visiting this Lord Ganesha temple and every day worshiping Lord Ganesha. She doesn't want anything, she's just doing that as a matter of duty because she saw her grandparents do it, her parents do it, now she also wants to do. So that kind of worship or religious activity will be in which category? It's done out of duty without wanting anything in return. Sattvic. Very good. And if this girl, she's reading Bhagavad Gita, but she's reading Bhagavad Gita with the intention that getting this knowledge will help her to become richer in life. She'll be able to get more money. So then her study of Bhagavad Gita or her reading Bhagavad Gita is which kind of sacrifice? Rajasic. I hope the subject is clear. After mentioning about sacrifice, then Lord Krishna goes to the next topic, which is austerity, tapasya. And then he says, first, let me ask you, what is meant by austerity or what is tapasya? These days, people even get scared when you use the word austerity. What austerity? Why? So, what is meant by austerity? Give me a very simple definition that what is austerity? Controlling the mind, let go of material conveniences, sense control. Okay, but can you give me a more general definition of austerity? What does austerity mean? What do we do by our own willpower? Controlling material, penance, not doing sense gratification, working hard to achieve something, to extend the desire, reducing bodily comforts. All right, thank you. So basically, austerity means voluntarily accepting some pain to gain something in spiritual life. That's called austerity. Means materially you accept some inconvenience, some pain, but you do it voluntarily to commit to a superior cause. Yes, very good. Or to gain something spiritual. So austerity can be of three types, or austerity can be done in three ways. One is through the body, the other is through the speech, and the other is through the mind. So there is austerity of body, there is austerity of speech, and there is austerity of mind. If I ask you of these three austerities, which is the most difficult one to do? Mind. Very good. Thank you. Austerity of mind. So this is the increasing difficulty actually. It's easier to be austere at bodily level. It's more difficult to be austere at the level of speech. And it's very difficult to be austere at the level of one's mind. So first of all, Lord Krishna explains what is austerity of body. He says, Deva Dvija Guru Pragya Pujanam Sauchamajavam Brahmacharyam Ahimsa cha Shariram Tapa Uchyate. Austerity of the body consists in worship of the Supreme Lord, the Brahmanas, the spiritual master, and superiors like the father and mother, and in cleanliness, simplicity, celibacy, and non-violence. 5 qualities are mentioned here. First is you worship whom? Anyone who is superior to you, like the Supreme Lord, the Brahmanas, the Guru, the parents. And the second is you should have a clean body, clean clothes, clean body. That's austerity of body. Third, you should be simple in nature. Fourth, you need to practice celibacy or brahmacharya. And fifth, non-violence, ahimsa. So that's austerity of body. With 5 points, then he also explains what is the austerity of speech. Anudvegakaram vakyam. Speak words which are having these 5 characteristics. They are truthful, they are pleasing, beneficial, not agitating, studying of the scriptures, Vedic scriptures. That's austerity of speech. We should speak the truth, no doubt, but we should not speak the truth to hurt people. We should speak the truth to people so that they are benefited. The truth should come as an advice which is coming from a well-wisher, or as a suggestion, or as a reformation or correction. So it's accepted happily. That's how one should speak the truth. And you should not agitate the other person, not give anxiety to people by our words, by our speech. And our speech should be based on what is given in the scriptures, not that we create a new knowledge and then share with people. We share what is already given in the Vedas, what is correct, what is verified, what is beneficial. That's what we present. So these are the 5 characteristics of austerities of speech. How to be more austere in speech. And finally, we have 5 characteristics for austerity of mind, which are satisfaction. Being satisfied means you are happy with whatever you have. Gravity. Gravity means being serious. Self-control, simplicity again, and purification. Always working in a way that the mind is purified, day in and day out. That's called austerity of mind. A very important point here is mentioned is one should use one's tongue to recite the Vedic scriptures. And we can do that. Nowadays, plenty of spiritual books are available. So we can buy them, we can read them. And in this way, engage our tongue and mind in this subject matter. Again, all these 3 kinds of austerities of body, mind, speech, they can be done either in mode of goodness or in mode of passion or in mode of ignorance. So in mode of goodness, what is the inspiration behind doing such an austerity? It's divine faith, that we are doing it because we have got inspiration from God, from Guru, from the scriptures. And the purpose is to get something spiritual in life. Not wanting anything material, no material reward. But austerity in mode of passion is of what type? Nature. It's again out of pride one does such kind of things. And in return, they want some honor and worship. That you see, this person is so austere, this person has not eaten for days. He has not consumed water for 5 days. He has not eaten for a week. So like that, when people speak about that person, then that person becomes very proud if the austerity is done out of mode of passion. Because such austerity is done out of mode of passion, that austerity is not stable or permanent, cannot do it for a long time. And finally, austerity in mode of ignorance, it is done only out of foolishness, which means it will only cause damage to oneself, one's body, one's mind. And the purpose of such austerity is you want to destroy others. Just like, we discussed doing tantric puja and all that stuff. The purpose is what? You want to harm others. You want to destroy others. So that is called tamasic austerity or tapasya. And in that, they also torture themselves. Torture themselves by engaging in such activities. Quick lesson. The Bhagavad Gita does not just teach us what to do and what not to do. It also teaches that whatever should be done, it should be done with a particular mindset. In this way, We learn the right art of doing the right thing. It's a very nice line. In this way, we learn the right art of doing the right thing. Okay, having spoken that, then the Lord goes to the next topic, which is charity. Charity is of different types. And actually, presently, we see in the world so many people give lots of charities. I did this one study and I found that there was a survey done by Charitable AIDS Foundation, CAF. In, and in that survey, they reached out to almost 1.3 million people scattered across 125 countries or more. And for 10 years, they did the survey. They went out to people for more than 100 countries. And the criteria of doing that survey was, did you ever help a stranger in your life, like helping him or her cross the street, giving him or her your seat in the bus or train, or something like that? Or have you donated money to a charitable organization, to some kind of charity? Or have you volunteered some time to serve in some organization? So this is all different kinds of charity, and they did a survey of reaching out to more than 100 countries, around 1.3 million people over a period of 10 years. And their conclusion was, in 2020, it was said that the total amount of charity that was given out was $471.44 billion, which is huge amount. And the list of countries which are at different levels of giving out charity, of course this is official information and it may not be the exact information. So you can see the 8 countries are mentioned here, starting with USA. It gives the highest amount of charity, then Myanmar, New Zealand, Australia, Ireland, Canada, and UK, and also Netherlands. But then so many people are giving out money as charity. The question here is, are all kinds of charity spiritual? And will all kinds of charity give a spiritual benefit? Yes, no? No, right? Cannot be. So, checking some examples with you. You're giving charity to a drunkard, and you know that person is a drunkard, and that person is going to buy more beer or alcohol, consume more alcohol using the money that you are giving to that person. So giving such kind of charity will be considered what? Rajasic, Tamasic, Sattvic. What kind of charity it will be considered? Tamasic. Very good. If you are giving money to someone who is your relative or friend, because that friend is in some emergency need, and while you give money, you are expecting that you will get back that money in future, or greater amount than that, or some kind of help from your friend in future. So that kind of charity is of what type? It's rajasic, right? Because there is expectation to get something material. Now here is a person who is walking on the street with his kids, and a beggar asks for money, and this person, out of pride, throws the money at the beggar. Take and be happy. Which means he is being disrespectful towards the beggar. So if that kind of charity is given, what will it be called? Sattvic, Rajasic, Tamasic. Goodness, passion, ignorance. It will be called Tamasic. This person visits some temple and then wants to give charity in order to save the tax benefits. in order to get the tax benefits, save tax payments. So, but and is giving donation just for that sake. So, such are what kind of charities? It's not tamasic. It is rajasic. Okay, so this is the table that shows us everything about charity. It says that a person who does charity in goodness does it out of inspiration of duty. That it's my duty, I should give. And does a person want anything in return who does that kind of charity? No. Place, pure person, proper, qualified, time, proper. But if someone does charity for some material returns, then inspiration is there only as long as one gets something in return. And such charity is given in an unwillingly fashion or a grudgingly. Let's like someone asked you for money and they said, no, I don't have, but that person is behind you. No, no, you must give, you have to give this, that, this, that. So you get fed up of that person and said, okay, take. So unwillingly, if you have given charity or grudgingly, that's in mode of passion. And in mode of ignorance, what happens? The place is impure, the time is improper, the person is unqualified, the attitude is you are disrespectful towards the person, and or you neglect the person while giving the charity. No. So that's charity in mode of ignorance. So now Arjuna is saying these all activities are religious in nature. They help a person to grow in a spiritual manner or religious manner. And if a person engages in these activities only in modes of goodness, passion, ignorance, how will that person ever make spiritual growth? How will that person grow? So Lord Krishna gives the solution and says, it's possible, Arjuna. How? Om Tat Sat. Arjuna says, please explain. So Lord Krishna says, Om Tat Sat refers to Parabrahman, the absolute truth. And what should be done? What is meant by absolute truth? Anyone would like to answer this question? What is meant by absolute truth? Parabrahman, yes, Parabrahman is already mentioned there. So, what is meant by absolute truth? Absolute truth means, I mean, you can define, give definition, or you can explain what is expected from us to do for the absolute truth. So, absolute truth is the supreme, who is known as Parameshwara, as some of you mentioned, who is also known as Lord Krishna, who is known as Parabrahman. And what we have to do, we have to do everything to satisfy him. That's what Krishna is telling Arjuna. Do everything to satisfy the absolute truth. That's the meaning of Om Tat Sat. So Om Tat Sat is basically names of Lord Vishnu. Om is also a name of Lord Vishnu. Tat and Sat also refers to Lord Vishnu. And Lord Krishna is saying, you do everything for him and you do everything while chanting these words, transcendental words. So do everything for Vishnu and do everything while chanting Vishnu. Vishnu can here also be replaced by Krishna, it can also be replaced by Rama, or it can also be just replaced by Om Tat Sat. What is it? Does it make sense? Yes, it makes sense. What Lord Krishna is trying to say is that you engage in religious activity because you are controlled by a particular mode, you have a nature, and you may not be able to change it immediately. But whatever religious activity you are engaging in, or whatever in general activity you are engaging in, while doing that you chant the names of God. It can be Om Tat Sat, it can be Vishnu Vishnu, it can be Lord Ramchandra's name, it can be Krishna Krishna. So you chant those names, and chanting of those names will purify that activity and give you spiritual benefits or credits out of that activity. But then that activity should be done for him, for the Supreme Lord. That's the purpose. So after having explained this, then Arjuna, asked this question to Krishna: what is asat and its result? And Krishna says, asat means opposite to sat, temporary. Ashraddhaya hutam dattam tapastaptam kritam chayat asat ityuchyate partha na chatat pretya no iha. Asat means anything which is done without faith, and the result of such activity is it's useless both in this life and in the next life. So now we can try to understand from all that we learn in this chapter, where are we placed? Are we in mode of goodness, or are we in mode of passion, or are we in mode of ignorance? What controls us the most? So now you can start sending your questions. This chapter was entitled Shraddhatraya Vibhaga Yoga. It, or in our words, it's called complexity, how to attain sattva. Quick lessons to learn. First of all, a chance for all. From this chapter, we understand that there are different kinds of beings, and they all are being given chance to grow in spiritual life. And they also have a freedom to choose between different kinds of gods and worship them. So, and slowly, if they do it in the right manner, they can make progress in spiritual life. So, in that way, this is a chance for all to study Bhagavad Gita, to learn from Bhagavad Gita, to apply, and be connected to Lord Krishna. Gita is so broad; it lets every kind of person be connected. Second, hands and legs tied. That's the nature of all the beings in this world. They're not freedom. They are not free. They don't have independence. Their hands and legs are tied. They are forced to work by the three modes of material nature. We are what we eat. Very important lesson, very simple also, you must have heard many times. Use sound filters. Now this is interesting. Whenever we have to talk something, speak something, let's use the sound filters. What I'm saying, is it uh, is it truthful? Is it beneficial? Is it going to please the other person? Is it going to benefit or help the other person? Or am I going to agitate that person's mind? And is it based on the scriptures? So like that, one can use the sound filters before speaking. Before you speak, you check. And if it's not correct, then you filter it out. Remove that statement or remove those words from your speech. And last, use purification filter. How does we purify anything we do? By chanting God's names. Like here you can see in the screen, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So by chanting these names of God, one can engage in different activities and then purify those activities. So quickly, let's look at the chapter conclusion at a glance. Arjuna began by asking, what about faith which is not scriptural? Lord Krishna says faith is in three modes. Then he talks about food and sacrifice in three modes. Then he talks about three types of austerity of body, mind, and speech. Austerity and charity in three modes. And finally, Om Tat Sat. Ultimate solution. Chant the names of God. And in that way, purify your activities. So we will end here. Let's take any questions if we have. What we call worshipping to Shiva. So are you asking us from the slide we showed where Lord Shiva is there, Lord Vishnu is there? There we mentioned, right? It's called sattvic faith, faith in mode of goodness. If you worship Lord Shiva as a demigod. Next, Radha Krishna. Does Om Tat Sat mean I am that truth? No. Om Tat Sat. Om is the reference to absolute truth. Tat means that, and Sat means is or is eternally. So Om Tat Sat means that is the absolute truth, or that remains the absolute truth eternally. Who is that? That is Lord Vishnu. That is Parabrahman. That is the Supreme. Here there is no aham, I am that truth. No. It is Om Tat Sat. That is Om, or that is eternal truth. That's the meaning of Om Tat Sat in general. Shashi Kalaji, Hare Krishna Babuji, how is Putra Kameshri Yajna performed by great personalities in the Shastras in the mode of goodness? Since it looks like a reward is expected to get a son and his Rajas. Very good question. So Putra Kameshri Yajna is one of the yajnas which is performed to get a child or get a son. Then how is it in mode of goodness? It's in mode of goodness because why get the son? Get the son for personal gratification that I should have a child? No, get the son as a matter of duty that I want someone to continue the legacy. The dynasty should continue. Someone else should become the king and take care of the citizens. So those kings who did Putra Kameshti Yajna, like Maharaj Dashrath, they did not do because they wanted a son or a child. Of course, that is there, but the more important reason for them to do that such yajna was, we want someone to become the next king of this kingdom, which is now the duty of a king. A king must find out the successor. Next question. Hare Krishna Prabhuji Pranam. What is meant by charity at an improper time? Very good question. Charity and an improper time would mean, let's say, it is summer season, and then you go out to people distributing blankets. So it's wrong time, isn't it? You want to distribute blankets, you distribute in winter season. Why distribute blankets in summer season? So giving charity at wrong time or wrong thing. Is donation to beggar not good? Please clarify. You can help people, there's nothing wrong in it. But then we should also be checking whether that person is using that money in the right manner. If that person is misusing that money, then that is something which we have supported. So it's wrong on our part to do that. So generally, it's very safe to give the help in such a way that that person cannot misuse that help. Rohitji, why worshipping Vishnu is in mode of goodness? Rather, it should be pure beyond the modes. Very good question. It is pure if Lord Vishnu is seen as the Supreme Lord. If Lord Vishnu is seen just as a demigod, then again it will come under the realm of mode of goodness. So it has to be seen as the Supreme Lord. Then there is no problem. Okay. Any other question? Prabhuji, without passion, progress is difficult. How passion can be transformed into goodness? It's true, without passion, you cannot do things. Passion is the energy which makes us do new things, work harder, be creative. So we have to keep a balance. Like, we don't have to completely give up passion. We also use our passion in the right manner. But then we should not be passionate at all times. We need to increase the amount of goodness and have a balance, that be in goodness and also when required use passion. Don't become subservient to passion. Next, what about charity for temple construction but getting tax benefit too? Well, if the charity is being given just for the sake of getting tax benefit, then it's not sattvic charity, it's rajasic charity. Is Hare Ram spell for Balaram? No, it's said for Lord Krishna only. One of the names of Lord Krishna is Rama. Radhika Ramana iti Ramaha. One who gives pleasure to Radhika is called Radhika Raman or Rama. Next question, Nidhi Khatriji. How can we raise ourselves from Rajaguna to Satoguna, as it becomes difficult for me to avoid food containing onion garlic? Well, the food containing onion garlic is in tamas, not even rajas. It's in mode of ignorance, tamas. So that will increase the amount of tamas in us, which means we'll have a lot of tamas and some amount of rajas, or rajas and tamas mixed together. So how do we rise beyond? Very simple. You give it up. And it's not difficult to give up. You can try. Are potatoes sattvic diet? Yes, vegetables in general are sattvic. But within the vegetables also we can have something which is more sattvic and less sattvic. For that we'll have to study more deeply this subject matter. looking at every single thing and then looking into the books of Ayurveda, whether it's sattvic or more sattvic or less sattvic or rajasic. So, are we responsible for the action of the beggar who spent it in a wrongful manner? Aren't we responsible for actions or intentions? Well, if you know that the beggar is going to spend it wrong in a wrongful manner, then you are responsible. Like I asked the question, you know this is a drunkard, and then you are giving the money. Okay, now you use it the way you like. So mostly that person is going to use it for drinking only, isn't it? So in that way, it's your mistake also. Why not help the beggar in a different manner? Then why not give some knowledge, some good education? Come on, change your life, become a different person. Like that also you can do charity. Charity can be done in different ways. Nowadays, Guruji, charity is like show of pride. What we should mention our name or not. No need to mention your name if you don't feel like. I mean, you can just give it out of a sense of duty. Hare- Question is in Hindi. Um, should we chant Vishnu Sahasra Nam, or means read Vishnu Sahasra Nam, or chant Hare Krishna on Ekadashi? You see, it all depends on what you want to achieve actually. What is your understanding of spiritual life? Why perform Ekadashi? What exactly you want to achieve? Then on that basis, you will take decision whether I should do this, whether I should do that. It's nothing like which is better. What do you want to get, achieve? That's how it will be decided what path you should be following. Next question. What if you're using tax benefited amount to in religious activities only? Yes, you can save the tax and then again use the same money for giving more donation. Then it's okay. That's very nice. Fine. Good. You did not use it for yourself. Guruji, my family use onion every day as a student. I can't move out. How can I tackle this situation? Okay, very simple question. So onion is not put in everything, isn't it? You don't put onion in rice, onion in chapati, onion in all kinds of sabjis, onion in all kinds of dal, in all preparations. So you can avoid preparation having onion, or you can remove the onion from the food and then take, or avoid it. It's possible. We also did that when we were in college days. We did not get food without onion and garlic, but we had to find out ways how to do it. It's possible. What kind of karma is performed by the person who receives the charity? Do they also come under three modes? It depends on what they do and who they are. If they're qualified to receive charity, then it's fine. If not, then that receiving of charity will also be affected by the modes. What should I read after or continue with Sri Bhagavad Gita? You can continue with Gita, and there's no limit to how many times you can read Bhagavad Gita and try to understand it. Ramesh, people of different faiths like Christianity and Islam sometimes become aggressive in saying their faith is the only way. How do we handle situations? Depends on who that person is and how aggressive that person is. Sometimes you have to neglect, sometimes you can defeat, sometimes you can discuss based on who that person is and what is actually the status of that person, power of that person, the intention of that person. Next question. If potatoes are sattvic, why many people do not eat? They say it's underground vegetable. See, within vegetables, again there will be categorization that this vegetable is more sattvic, this vegetable is less sattvic or more tamasic. So if you see in general, it is sattvic because it's naturally obtained. But then within it also, then you'll have varieties, right? So it's very simple. It's better to eat potatoes than to eat non-vegetarian food. It's better to eat potatoes than to eat onion and garlic. But if you have vegetables more better than potatoes, then go for that, no problem. Some people hate on ISKCON saying what you say is Krishna is supreme God and feel bad when Shivji is mentioned as a living God. So, so you explain to them that we are not disrespecting Lord Shiva. We just are trying to tell you what is the position of Lord Shiva. Why have any problem with that? And if they don't understand, then you just don't talk about it. Simple. All right, so we'll stop here. Thank you very much for this session. See you on the next Friday. That will be our last session. I'm so happy that we are doing it together. All of you sincerely joined for it. So meeting again on Friday at 6 p.m. for chapter number 18. Hare Krishna. Thank you so much.